Welcome to Cory's Stories. Are you ready to meditate with Cory? Hi, my little friends. Do you love the HEIDI, Cherry, and VAYA stories that I make here on YouTube? If you want exclusive stories that you can't get here and you want to join the Cat Club, follow the link down below that says Cat Club, Patron, and you'll find out all the details about how to join the club. Enjoy the meditation, guys. Are you ready to meditate with Cory? Make sure that you're comfortable in your bed and your light is just right. Make sure that you brushed your teeth and you've got your comfortable pajamas on. All is well in the world, so that you can relax and let go of your busy day. Casey was a cowboy. Well, in his dreams, in his mind, in one half of his life, he was a cowboy. In the other half, he was a 10-year-old boy that lived in the city. He rode his bike to school sometimes, and then other times he had to get on the bus. He went to a normal school, had normal friends, and did everything that you do when you live in a city. But in his heart, in his bones, in his mind at night, when he was in his own space, in his own room, Casey was a cowboy. He had this routine. He'd been doing it since he was 8, and now he was 10. When he was 8, he had a dream about being a cowboy. He was riding on a horse, and he had a cowboy hat on and cowboy boots, and he was older in his mind. He wasn't 8. But in the dream, it was so real. Everything about it was real. He could feel the horse between his legs. He could smell his horse. She always smelled like horse and hay. He felt like he was visiting another world, not some foreign place or a different planet or anything. Like a past life. Like this was Casey, not just dreaming. This was Casey when he was someone else in another lifetime. It was still him. He could feel it was him. He was inside of this cowboy. It felt crazy, but it didn't feel like a dream. It wasn't a dream where you just play out a character and then you wake up and you go, oh wow, that was an interesting dream. No, this wasn't like this at all. This was different. Casey felt like he'd closed his eyes, fell asleep, and gone back maybe 100 years in time to when he was a cowboy riding a horse. That was 2 years ago. Almost, not every night, but almost every night. Since then, for the past 2 years, Casey goes to his past life. He goes to this other part of him that used to be him in a different body like 100 years ago. And he lives the life of a cowboy. By now, he got quite a lot of information about Casey and who he was when he was a cowboy. This is what happens now when he dreams. Casey gets in bed. He makes sure that he's comfortable. And then he turns on his nightlight. He has a nightlight that has shapes of cut-out cowboys riding horses that reflect on the walls when the light shines through. So when you lay in bed and you look at the walls, it looks like there's cowboys walking on their horses across prairies or fields of flowers. The only thing that he can think is that he got that light when he was 8, and that's when his whole world started to change. So Casey makes a point of using that light every night. So he turns on his light, and there are the cowboys all around his room. He closes his eyes and takes 3 deep breaths. He does the 3 deep breaths because this helps him to feel as if he's relaxing and falling into his bed. He does the 3 deep breaths every single time because at the time, when he was 8, 2 years ago, he was listening to a meditation by Cory, and Cory said, take 3 deep breaths in one of the meditations. And that was the night he fell asleep and had his first cowboy dream. So he does it every night since. He took his 3 deep breaths on this particular night and felt his body relaxing. And then he got the familiar feeling of that falling sensation, as if he was falling back into a big soft pillow or a big giant marshmallow. And he liked that feeling, so he always let himself just fall. He was never afraid. He never made himself wake up as if he was going to land and get hurt. He just trusted and fell. And then he'd be asleep. But he wasn't asleep, not in his mind. Casey was riding his horse through the field. His horse was called Meadow. She was beautiful. He had many horses, but Meadow was his favorite. She was white and she had a black streak down the middle of her nose, like someone had rubbed ink or coal dust all the way down the middle of her face. And because she was white, the black streak stood out so brilliantly. It didn't look like a mistake. It looked like she'd been touched by some magical person or something, because she was truly a magical horse. Casey felt everything about Meadow, and Meadow felt everything about Casey. He never made any sounds, he never made any commands, he never, ever banged her with his feet. She just felt him and she knew what to do. She knew which way to go, she knew which way to move left or right. She felt him if she needed to move backwards. She felt him when they needed to run faster. It was like they were connected by spirit. She was a part of him, like an extra leg that he didn't even have to think about, that just responded to every thought, like your hands do or your legs do on your body when you want them to move. Casey could see his house. It was a wooden cabin. It wasn't enormous, but it was big enough. There was smoke coming out of the chimney. And then as he got closer to the area that he called home, he started to hear more familiar noises. The chickens. He could hear the pigs. At one point he heard his cow. He had a cow. He loved her very much. She gave him milk, and with the milk he made butter. He also made yogurt, and he made cheese. She was called Lily. In this world, he'd had Lily a long time. And then he had 2 pigs. He called one Porky and the other one Pie, which he thought was really funny. But I'm sure the pigs wouldn't think it was funny if they knew that he was calling them a pork pie, which is something that you eat, which is something that is made of pigs. But he called them Porky and Pie. He had lots of chickens. He just called them chickens. There was too many of them to name. And then he had 3 goats. He called the goats me, myself, and I. So one was called me, one was called myself, and one of them was called I. And they were all different colours, so he could tell which one was which very easily. Casey had his own garden, where he grew most of his food. He was self-sufficient. He had mango trees. He had orange trees and lemons. He had so many different plants, but most of the time he loved to plant things that he could eat. He had lettuce, beets, cucumber, corn. He had radishes. He had sweet potatoes, onions, chives, cilantro, parsley. You name it. If you could grow it, Casey the cowboy grew it on his ranch. There were other people that lived on the ranch, friends that helped him work the ranch because it was a lot of work. There was a lot of gardening. They had animals to look after. They had a lot of horses. Casey wasn't married. He didn't have kids. He was only a young man, maybe 17, 18. But he knew that this house was his. At this point, he didn't know if the house had been left to him, if it had come through families and generations. He didn't know that story yet. He hadn't dreamt it yet. But he dreamt a lot. Most of the time, every night, he just comes here and he lives. He lives as a cowboy. He loves everything about it. He loves the sweet smell of the air. He loves the smell of the meadows and the flowers. The air is different here, he always thinks when he dreams. It's so sweet and clean, and at nighttime he likes to do campfires and sit and just stare at the stars. And there's so many of them, and it's so bright and so clear at night. Not like living in the city, where there's smog and pollution, and you can barely see the stars because there's so many lights coming from the buildings, the high-rises. Here in his dream, he could count the stars if he wanted to. And there's many nights that he camps and just sleeps underneath the stars by the fire. He's heard wolves before. He hasn't seen one yet. Sometimes he hears some really strange noises in the night, but he's never afraid. He likes being Casey. Casey is never afraid. He's just comfortable. He's like a walking oak tree. He's muscly and brawny and strong. And he's always laughing. He thinks everything is funny, which means he's always happy. Whereas Casey, who lives in the city in the day, just feels uncomfortable sometimes. There's too many people, too much noise, too much TV, too much social media, too much distraction. He finds himself more and more every day yearning to be Casey, the cowboy, versus Casey, the 10-year-old that has to go to school, that has to abide by rules, that has to be in the hustle and bustle of the town and the city all the time. These days he feels kind of torn. He wished more and more that he lived his world at night, in the day as well. He has so many adventures there, so many things that happen, so many funny things that happen. It seems like his nighttime life is so much more fuller and richer in comparison to his daytime life. That's Casey. Casey the cowboy. And when he wakes up in the morning, he's just Casey again. Puts on his school uniform, unless it's the weekend. And he lives his city life. Casey hopes that one day this will change. He hopes that one day he'll get his own ranch and he'll be a cowboy in this lifetime, not just in his past lifetime. He's going to make it happen. This is his destiny. This is his dream. Every morning when he wakes up and he's back in his house in the city, he wishes for it over and over and over again. It's going to come true. He just knows it. The end. For now. But Casey will be back. Namaste, my little friend.